I think we're going to start.
Are we doing?
We're
are
live.
We doing this?
We're
Hello.
live, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Thank you for spending your lunch hour with us.
Again, come on, guys. Good afternoon. There we go.
Yay!
How's your second day of TDX? Yeah.
Woohoo!
Woo! Awesome. By the way, did anybody see the Parker keynote this morning? Yeah, that was great, right? I just want to point out there's one of our teammates over here who kind of did a kick butt demo. Leanne Reimel, will you stand up?
So if you want to ask her questions about what she did, you could ask her after the session.
Of course, of course. Yeah, totally. Anyway.
Well, welcome, everyone. We're super happy that you're spending time with us. We are going to talk about the process before Process Builder, because we know how important that is to talk about. And Mark, who are you?
Oh, who am I?
Who
Hi.
are you?
I'm Mark Baseman. I'm an admin evangelist with Salesforce.
Hooray!
And
I'm
who are you?
Killian Bruce. I am also an admin evangelist at Salesforce.
Awesome.
And it's the first time we get to present together, so we're really excited.
We're so psyched to be with you guys this afternoon. And we're so excited for this slide.
Oh, my favorite slide.
It's the forward-looking statement slide.
Sure is.
So please base your purchasing decisions only on products and services that are currently available. So, has this ever happened to you? Sales leadership is asking for a new dashboard showing information that's not currently being tracked. Has that ever happened?
Anybody? Yeah?
Okay. Has anybody been asked for a new field? But maybe there's like already the field there that's just named something different that nobody uses. Has that happened to people? Okay, good. Yes, I'm seeing some nods. Awesome.
Some exasperated nods.
Yeah, exasperated nods, exactly. So now what? Well, let's see this in action.
We're going to have some live skits, live performances during this breakout session, so be warned. Hi, I'm a sales VP, and I was just wondering if I could get a new dashboard showing the number of leads that each person is working on.
And I'm a Salesforce admin. You bet. I'll start building that right away.
All right.
Okay.
So now the party started.
All right, party started. We woke you up. So this is probably a version of what happens to you all the time. Somebody asks for a thing, and then you want to go build it right away, right? Because you're an awesome admin, and you sit at the crossroads between the business and the technology. So it's up to you to be that interface. And sometimes it can be really challenging to be in that role, right? Where you're getting all those requests, and you have to go build stuff.
And that is why we created a thing for you.
There's a thing.
We created
Look at the thing.
a framework that we call the Do It.
I know. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, but just bear with us.
So this framework is something that we've created to kind of help you go through that evaluation process before you just start building the thing and solutioning right away. Now, we're going to go through this step by step. We're going to give you some real-life examples. So let's start with Discover. So discovery is something that we all have to do a lot as admins, right? I mean, the biggest thing is we need to figure out really what the request is and why they're requesting the thing, kind of going behind it. Now, there's some techniques that we found with the Salesforce community that work really, really well for this. And the first one is Saab Law. Who's here? Who has heard about Saab Law before? Yeah? So the creator of the term Saab Law is over in the corner, Mr. Mike Gerholt, by the way. So Saab Law stands for Salesforce Administration by Walking Around. And literally what that means is walking over to your user and asking to see how they use Salesforce. And what's cool about this is it really gives you an excuse to establish those relationships with your users, kind of make yourself available to them, make them understand that your job is to help them do their job easier and better by using Salesforce. It's also a great way to help combat some adoption issues, maybe, if you're like, hey, let's just have a quick coffee, and I want to see how you're doing the thing in Salesforce. And if they have never logged into Salesforce, that's a quick indicator, right? And this is a great way, too, to kind of see how the common tasks that people are using. Maybe you intended them to use Salesforce a certain way, but they're actually not using it that way. Shocker. And so you can really get that feedback that helps you understand how to better, think of a solution. And this doesn't have to be in person. If you can't have coffee in person and sidle up next to your colleague, you can do this virtually too, right? And it's important to do this also on mobile, especially using Salesforce Mobile. Hover over their shoulder. See what they're doing. See how many clicks they're going, which parts of the apps they're using. And my favorite way of discover is called the 5 whys. So this is a pretty commonly known framework on how to kind of get to the root of the question. I like to call this channeling your inner 3-year-olds. Anyone have toddlers or who has had toddlers? Mm-hmm. Yes? Or maybe some of us, like me, maybe still act like toddlers sometimes. This is really great because you need to ask all those questions to really peel back and understand what the real problem is. Now, the Washington Monument is on here because there's a famous story about the Washington Monument and the 5 whys. So they were having problems trying to figure out why there was discoloration happening on the monument. So the first answer was, oh, well, we're using these abrasive cleaning products. Okay, well, why do you have to use the cleaning products? Oh, because there's a lot of bird excrement on the building. Okay, well, why is that happening? Well, there's insects that gather up there. So the birds go and eat the insects and come out the other end. Okay, well, why are there insects there? Well, because they're attracted to the big bright lights. Oh, so you're saying if we turn down the lights, then we'll get rid of the insects and we won't have to wash it with those abrasive chemicals. So that's an example of kind of going down that path of asking all of those questions to really understand what the real issue is. So let's see this in action. We read scripts because we're serious actors.
That's correct. So why do you need that dashboard of leads per person, sales VP? I'm the admin, remember?
Well, admin, our biz dev team isn't talking to enough people, so I thought if we had a dashboard, we could set up a competition for our reps.
Oh, interesting. Why aren't they talking to enough people?
Well, they're all millennials, so obviously they don't like to work. But I don't know. I mean, the bottom line is we're just not closing enough business.
Oh, so our pipeline isn't full. Well, what are some of the metrics that you look at to see how well the reps are performing?
Well, we look at how many leads each biz dev rep converts every week, and we want this dashboard to see how many leads they have. And then I figure out their conversion rate on a spreadsheet, because I love spreadsheets. And, you know, I can't talk about this anymore. I got to go close some deals. Let me know when you got that dashboard ready for me.
Huh, okay. A spreadsheet, huh? Let's try Saab Law. Oh, hi, biz dev rep.
Hi, admin.
Mind if I watch over your shoulder as you follow up on a lead? Is that super creepy?
It's pretty creepy, but, you know, I like you because you have coffee with me, so I'm happy to do that for you.
Cool. Let me see.
So this is how I log the lead, and then I cut and paste it, the email address from Salesforce, and I put it into my spreadsheet here, which is also really hard to do on mobile, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then I put it into an email, and thankfully I have like a draft in my email folder that I use for all the emails, so then I can just paste it in there and send it. And then I go back into the spreadsheet, and I mark the fact that I sent the email. So that takes me like 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes on the mobile phone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It looks like there might be some opportunities to improve on what people are doing. What do you think, right? Okay, yay. So let's see. Oh, yeah, sorry. Gotta have that again. Okay. Okay, we got it, right? All right, so let's see if there are ways that we can optimize inefficiencies. So the first thing is asking more questions. So you can see here, is that the most efficient way to use a napkin? Probably not, right? I did hear one no, by the way. People are like, yeah, that seems like a good idea. No, it's obviously not an efficient way to do it.
But it looks so cool, Mark.
Asking more questions, it definitely looks cool. No disagreement there, but inefficient. So the idea behind optimizing inefficiencies is looking at the process and really doing some deeper discovery to find out where those spots are that you think that you might be able to improve. And it's your job as the admin to be always thinking about ways that you can optimize the process. And one of the best ways to do that is to use a diagram a process chart. So let me talk about flowcharts here. So, and some questions you can use to start optimizing. And these are things that you can use in your real life, day-to-day job. Why is it being done this way? Are there steps we can reduce or remove? Sometimes people actually already know that they're doing things inefficiently, and all you need to do is kind of dig into some of that stuff. Sometimes the dependency is with another team or department. I found this when I was an admin. Oh, well, we have to get stuff to finance in this particular way, and do not vary the spreadsheet that finance gets or people freak out. So why does this team need info in this way, or why do you get info from the team this way? Also, are there any spreadsheets that you use, or are there any spreadsheets that people are using to track information? My teammate Leanne likes to say that a spreadsheet is an app that is ready to be built. So look for those secret spreadsheets, because they're all around the organization.
Boo, sneaky spreadsheets.
Boo, sneaky spreadsheets. And finally, what prevents you from doing it a different way? So these are essentially discovery questions and optimizing questions that you as the admin can ask to get to the heart of what the business need really is. So don't be scared. All this is a cross-functional flowchart. You may have seen this before in a book or a whiteboard, super fancy. All you need to do to look at this, to interpret what's happening here, each swim lane, and you can probably guess a swim lane like a swimming pool, each swim lane is a person or a department or a function. So you sort of read this from left to right. Where there are processes or process steps, things that are happening, those are in the square boxes. If there are things that are decision points, those are in diamonds. And if there is data that is captured at some point in the process, that's usually done with a, looks sort of like a paper form, there's a squiggly part at the bottom. So this is a process flowchart. Okay, cross-functional flowchart. There are a bunch of online tools that can help you create these. Lucidchart, Glyphy, Visio, OmniGraffle. There are all sorts of tools that you can use to create these, but really the important part of this is going through the process step by step, visually mapping it out. I guarantee you, you will be excited and or terrified at what comes out when you actually try to map it out.
All right, Mark, let's see this in action.
Sounds good.
So here we are. We're going to build this awesome flowchart.
We sure are.
Yeah?
So let's take a look and see what happens in our lead process. So I've kept it fairly simple. So we have two lanes in our swim lanes here. We have our marketing and our business development, our BDRs. So we have a lead that comes in from marketing, and we know those are always the top quality leads, right? Every single lead that comes in from marketing is like awesome, right? So our biz dev folks are there to qualify those leads. So what are they doing? The first thing they need to do is assign an owner of that lead, right? Then they need to send that email, and you can see I've got the email log there. Then they need to log that activity as a Salesforce. Then they need to determine if the lead is a qualified lead. So maybe they're using some process criteria for that. I haven't indicated that on the flowchart, but depending on what your lead qualification process is, for those of you in sales or sales ops, maybe they're using the BANT, Budget Authority Need Timeline Framework. Anyway, doesn't matter. They're doing some sort of lead qual. Might be interesting to dig into that. We're not going to do that today. And then after the lead qual, then if the lead is qualled, they convert the lead, and then there's a whole other sub-process. If the lead isn't qualified, then they kick it back to marketing. It's in the marketing hold queue, and then they'll remarket to that person until hopefully they come back around and so on. So does this process make sense to everybody? Yes, cool. It's super, super simple. Yeah, yay. So again, mapping this stuff out, super revealing. And you can see there might be some steps here that we might want to focus on. So that brings us to step 3, translate.
So this is where the admin magic comes in, because admins are magical. Because like we talked about, you sit at the intersection of all the different departments in your organization, and you have to understand how the organization works, and this is where you bring in your Salesforce magic. So translate is the first of the E's of our framework, and this is where you start matching that business issue with the technology available to you on the platform. You can compare the different features, so oftentimes there's a zillion different ways that you can skin the cat. right? You have so many tools available to you, so it's really important you look at comparing which tool to use, which I'll talk about in just a second, and remember those best practices. Keeping it simple. So let's talk a little bit about matching those requirements to the technology. So we saw this process chart, and this yellow area down here, this is ripe for some automation with Salesforce, right? This is the bottleneck that we're experiencing that I'm, as a biz dev rep, spending 30 minutes cutting and pasting things from spreadsheets and draft emails on my phone, right? So this is where we're going to look at where we can bring in some of the tools that we have available to us on the platform to try and make this streamlined, make this not a bottleneck, right? So let's talk about some of those possibilities. So this is just a sample of some of the things that you might be able to use. We have a lot of different features, but when you're going through this process, it's really helpful to kind of map these out and see how they might help you for the specific steps you are looking to automate or to just streamline, right?
This seems super overwhelming. How do I even go about starting to decide which thing to use for what?
Great question, Mark Baseman. So the big thing to remember when you're doing this is trying to keep it simple. You could probably code your way to an amazing, awesome custom solution, but you're the only one who's going to know what that's doing, and who knows if you change something that in the way the system works, that could break. Now, when you're looking at all these different features, there's a lot of resources that are really helpful. We have a lot of Trailhead resources to learn about the different things that are on here. There's way more than that. And there's release notes that are really helpful. Also, looking and seeing how other people have solved similar issues on the Trailblazer community is an incredible way to get help and advice. Now, when we're thinking about just this specific use case, right? So I was thinking automation for these things. There's a lot of different possibilities. We can use an action, right? Action's a nice, simple way to kind of automate maybe one step of that process. We also have this cool activity component. Who here uses Lightning? Okay,
right,
that is awesome. That makes me
Yes.
happy.
Give yourselves a round of applause for
Seriously.
using Lightning. So for those of you that haven't yet migrated, just go talk to the people that had their hands raised.
Yeah, or you can talk to me. I have lightning earrings. I can talk to you about lightning.
That's true.
All day long. So there's a thing called activity component in Lightning, which for this use case might be really, really helpful because it puts it into the page, everything that biz dev is doing. We could also probably build a process builder, right, to kick off a series of actions when a lead comes in. We could also probably build an awesome flow, again, kind of increasing complexity. And who here has used a macro before?
Ooh,
Okay,
nice.
so that's awesome. Macros are now available not just for Service Cloud. So you can now use macros to automate those series of clicks, navigate your users through a specific process in not just service apps, right? In your sales apps, in your custom apps. So that's pretty exciting. So these are all things that you can think about. And when you're going through your process, map these out. Put them all on a sheet of paper. Rank them. Maybe put your specific use case through each one of these to see what that solution would be like. Because when you're trying to keep it simple, you'll be able to tell really quickly, well, how long is it going to take me to build this? How is it going to scale as we continue to grow, or if I want to carry this over to other elements of the organization? And I know we're at a developer conference. I'm a big fan of code, but this is where you use clicks and code, and you decide when is the right opportunity to use the clicks, when's the right opportunity to use the code. They work really well together. They only work well together if you think of them together. So keeping it simple, focusing on the clicks. So let's talk about this. When you're translating, it's helpful to build these out, right? So let's say I want to look at Process Builder as a possible solution here. I can build out a process to fire off that email and then log the fact that that email has been sent. Okay, looks pretty easy. I can do that. Well, I can also build out that activity component and put that on the lead page for my biz dev reps, right? So the reason I'm showing these is because when you're building out solutions, you should build them yourself and compare them. See what they look like. Kind of go through that experience yourself, because if you build a couple different solutions, you can then test them.
And
right?
where should I test those solutions? Now that I've built a bunch of really awesome components and flow, and where do I do that? Should I do that right in production? Because
No.
it's super easy. I can just build it. I don't have to do any change sets. Can't I just do it right in production and just get a super user to
Mark.
test it? Okay.
No. You build it in production. We're going to have a chat later.
Uh-oh.
Now, Sandbox. We love Sandbox. So Sandbox is a place where you build your test solutions, and then you can see how it works with your metadata, with your org. Now, the other cool thing about building your Sandbox and creating a couple different solutions is then you can invite your super users to use those solutions inside of your Sandbox. It's pretty cool, right? Super users? Who here has super users they know at their organization? Okay, a handful. All the rest of you should find your super users because these are your best friends. These are your biggest allies and stakeholders with your Salesforce application, your rollout, your adoption across your company, because these are the people that are using Salesforce the most, maybe excited about seeing how Salesforce can help them save time in their day, could do their job easier. And they're the ones that are going to give you feedback, incentivize them. Take them to lunch. Give them Starbucks gift cards. Incentivize them to give you feedback. It's like doing your own user research, right? So at Saab Law, once you've got these solutions tested out in your Sandbox, and have them do the two different ways. See how the process builder solution works versus how that activity timeline solution works.
Some of the swag that you get at the conference over the next couple of days, bring it back.
Yes.
Tempt people with it. It works, people. It seems crazy, and it works for kids, and it works for your people, too. I guarantee it.
People love things,
That's
whatever
true.
they are.
The swag.
They're free things. They like them.
Is it a tiny giraffe?
I like them.
Yep. I want one of those. Just saying.
We should make some tiny giraffes.
Just saying. They're here. Yeah, there is.
So I talked about super users and didn't advance the slide, but there you go. So super users are great. Identify them, reward them, incentivize them to help you make their lives easier. Also really good for them too, because it gives them kind of a leadership role within the company, right? Establishes them as an expert alongside you, so other people can go to them for leadership advice, questions about Salesforce, which is pretty cool. All right. Let's see testing in action.
Yes, let's. Hey, biz dev rep. I'm the admin, right? I made a thing. Can you test it in the Sandbox while I watch?
Absolutely. I'm happy to test for you. You were so nice to me last time. You even gave me coffee, and so I'm happy to do this for you.
Oh, by the way, I got an equality ally sticker here. I'm just maybe leave that here just in case you want to put it on your
I
laptop.
need more stickers for my laptop. Thank you.
Fantastic. You got it.
So wow, this is really cool. It took me 1 or 2 clicks versus 15 minutes of cutting and pasting back and forth between my email and spreadsheets. That's pretty cool. I like it. I dig it.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, sales VP, check out this cool dashboard I made you showing you all the leads and the conversion rate per rep. Now you don't have to use that spreadsheet anymore.
You are a rock star admin. You are totally getting a bonus.
Really?
Well, in swag.
Oh. Womp womp. So, okay, we've talked about discovering, optimizing, translate, testing. One of the most important parts, and one that admins always neglect, and project plans to do your rollouts that's always left off, and it's the first thing to be cut, is training. I am very passionate about this topic, in case you haven't already realized it. If you don't do this step, none of the other steps matter, period. If you don't do this step, none of the other things we talked about matter, okay? You have to train people. And by the way, this is not a one-time, yeah, we did a big launch training, boom. Guess what? People are going to be sick. Kids are going to be sick, and school's going to be off that week. And guess what? Not everybody's going to be there, or even the people that are there are going to be checking their phones, et cetera, et cetera. Training is not a one-time event. It is often treated as such. We do one big launch, and then we're done. That's not how people learn. That's not how you learn. You learn in your day-to-day job every day, and you ask questions. So training, not a one-time event. Rolling out and adopting the solution is a key part of change management, which is an entire other presentation, which we're not going to give today. But one of the most important parts of change management is communication. If you are not regularly communicating with your users, and I'm not just talking about, the system's going to be down for a period of time, but actually having communication and updates, having a regular cadence, very, very important. When you're thinking about training, you want to make training persona-based. What that means is you want to have different training tailored to different people. So if someone is a sales rep or a business development person versus that sales VP, the training that they're going to get should be different and should be tailored to what they're doing in their day-to-day job and their day-to-day role. So here is a sample training strategy that's role or function based. You can see along the left-hand side I have specific areas of Salesforce functionality, and I have the different roles that might need that particular training. One of the keys here is looking at who needs to be trained, what are the processes that are relevant for that audience, and what are the scenarios that are covered by Salesforce. So again, making this map and this chart of thinking about, okay, who are the people, what are the different functions, and then breaking it down even further into a true training path for each persona. Now, who here has been on Trailhead? And I better see every damn person in this audience raise your hands, because if you're not doing it, then I don't know what you're doing. Okay, so Trailhead, start there. And what's great is, of course, we're encouraging you as admins and developers to spend time on Trailhead, but unlock the secret of Trailhead to your users. It's not just for you. You can have everyone do Trailhead. There are trails that are really applicable for business users, for sales management, for sales leaders. Please, please don't just hoard all the Trailhead goodness for yourself. Share it with the rest of your organization. So, and by the way, if you want to see if people have done their trails, well, there's a little app on the App Exchange called Trailhead Tracker. And if they're logging into Trailhead, you can see whether or not they have done the trail that you told them to do. I'll say that again. You can creep on your users and see if they've done the trail you told them to do. So, install Trailhead Tracker in your org, and when you assign them these Salesforce fundamentals trails, you can run a report and see if they did it or not. And then send out helpful encouragement, right? Carrot and stick, right? Try to encourage your users. They'll get this, little giraffe or whatever. But the most important thing is making sure that you're starting them with Trailhead, right? This way, it gives them that foundation and the base from which to build on. Again, scenario training, do my job training. Where possible, have them be doing the things that they're going to be doing when they're in Salesforce. And if you can, give them real data or have them bring real data to that. So they're not entering, Mickey Mouse or sample contact. They're entering their real information. The reason that's important is because this then gives them the feel and the muscle memory, if you will, of when they're going to do it live and do it in real life. Also, again, I mentioned training is not a one-time event. After go live, refresher topics. So this is things around data entry. This is things around navigation refreshers. Top tips based on questions. You as the admin can do a brown bag, right? People bring their lunch, or better yet, bring food, right? Bring donuts, bring cookies, because let's face it, that's why people go to meetings. That's definitely why I go. So bring stuff, entice your users. Also have some sort of an open office hour. So during a particular time, maybe that's time that you make yourself available, right? One of the challenges of being admins is there's just that incoming, bombardment of requests. By having a dedicated open office hours time slot, that can then you can be like, hey, great, that's a perfect question to bring to office hours. Also, if you don't have an internal chatter group for Salesforce support, this would be a great time to start one. It's a really, really great way to share the knowledge more widely. If one person has a question, I guarantee you probably 5 other people have that same question and haven't been brave enough to come ask you.
That's where your super users will come from too. They will emerge and reveal themselves.
Totally, and this is how you will find the super users, is the ones that start answering the questions for you, and that tends to lighten the burden. And then, of course, you're then inviting your super users in to do your testing from earlier, because you built it in a sandbox, right? You built it in a sandbox, so you can have access to that sandbox, and then they're testing it. So, anyway.
Mark, how do you handle this if you're a virtual admin?
What a great question. So you can definitely do virtual office hours. We've done that where, and I did this when I was an admin. It was literally an open Google Hangout session. So everybody knew that once a week, or I don't think it was once a week, but it was every couple of weeks, people could just sign on to the Hangout, and I was there to answer questions, which was awesome. Also, you can do like a virtual lunch, so it's both people are eating lunch, but you're doing it at the same time. There are ways to keep virtual team members engaged. And IM or chat, that's fine, but what's hard about that is kind of tracking those types of requests and tracking those questions. What's great about the things that we're talking about, it's a way to distribute that knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? You want to see this in action?
Yes.
I definitely heard that from the audience. Okay, I spent time doing discovery and figured out what the business need was. Then we optimized the process to remove some steps. After that, we translated the new process into Salesforce solutions. We tested them in a sandbox with our super users. And finally, we trained all of our biz dev reps on how to use that new app.
I am so happy as a biz dev because now I have more time to scroll on Facebook. Follow up on leads.
And I'm a happy admin because I did it. Okay.
So just to recap, this is the framework. It is something that we are so happy to share with you. We hope it is useful for you. If you have feedback on this, we also would love to hear it.
Absolutely.
And we will, of course, this presentation will be available. Yeah, so when in doubt, just do it. And we have a lot of resources available for you. So admin.salesforce.com actually has a whole blog post about this that Mark wrote. We have
and
Trailhead
a podcast.
content.
Don't forget about the podcast.
Oh, the podcast. Who here listens to the Salesforce Admins podcast?
Great.
Woo-hoo! All right.
If you don't, you can get it at admin.salesforce.com.
And iTunes and Google Play and SoundCloud and all of the other places. I happen to host the Salesforce Admins podcast and new episodes every Tuesday, Thursday. We actually have an episode where we talk specifically more in depth about this topic last week. So,
okay.
Great resources.
Yes. So, give us your feedback in the app right now. It is probably already bugging you to give a survey for this thing. If it has not yet bugged you, then we are bugging you now in real life. Please, we take that feedback super seriously, so by all means use that app to do the survey. Yes, I'm looking at you, Basil. Yep, great. Thank you. All right, and Fiend. Here, stage bow.
Oh, yeah.
And Fiend.